Hello everyone, I'm back with more example of function. So now we are going to talk about factorial function. So this is a mathematical kind of operation, right? Factorial. So what factorial does? Factorial of, for example, 5 is going to be 5 multiply 4 multiply 3 multiply 3 multiply 2 multiply 1, right? And then we show that with 5, we show it like this way, 5 factorial. Okay, so we want to see how we can define a function that does the factorial. So let's say factorial of n. If n is equal 0, return 1. So this is the situation that we calculate the factorial of n equals 0. Factorial of n equals 0 is 1. So 0 factorial is 1, right? So 0 factorial is 1. Okay, else return n multiplies to the factorial of n minus 1, means 1 the factorial before n, 1 before n. Okay, so this one actually, okay, good. So now let's print the factorial of 0, 1, right? Print factorial of 1, 1. Now factorial of 2, factorial of 3, and so on. Like factorial of 100 is this huge number here. Okay, so this is the factorial in this way, and we can also simplify that. How? We can define factorial function n and return 1 if n equal 0. Do you remember inline if condition? Else n multiply factorial n minus 1. And this is going to do the same thing. Using inline function. Inline, actually if condition, sorry. If condition in function. Okay, so this is the factorial, and let's look at one example here. Okay, so let's define a total cent value. We have D as dollar and C as cent. D is dollar and C is cents, right? And then I want to write down the result is equal to D multiply 100 plus C, and then return the result. And then we can say print total cent if we have $42, $43 and 40 cents. So the result will be 4,340, right? Okay, so what we should not do in the function actually, let me write it down here. Never update the argument variable argument in the body of function. So when I say that, means never write down now C is equal to D multiply 100 plus C, because we saw such a thing when we were writing down while loop or for loop or if condition. But in the function, it's always the best if you create a new variable for total and then assign whatever you want to assign to the total value rather than updating the sent value, for example, here. Okay, so now I have a participation point for you here. What output is generated by program below? So define main. Let's say main is the name of function, right? X is equal to 5, y is equal to 2, and then print compute result x and y. And then now what is the compute result? We are going to define another function, compute result, and then the result is going to be value 1 power value 2, then result now is going to be result divided by 2, then return the result. Okay, so what output is generated by the program below? So when I say program below, means by the main function. What kind of output is going to be printed with main function, and what's your justification, how you explain this, how you explain the output. Okay, in another word, if I print main, this, what is the result? Okay, so I want to know what is the result of main itself, or this one itself. Okay, so yeah, this will be your participation point for this lecture. Okay, so let's have some example. Okay, so now define main, and then A is equal to 5, B is equal to 7, print mystery A and B. Now we are going to define this function with variable 1 and variable 2. Actually, let me call that argument so you get used to calling them argument. Okay, so now z is equal to x plus y. Now z is equal to z divided by 2, and then return z. And then if I run this, oops, what happened now? It says x is not defined. Where did I define x? Oh, here. Good, we found it. Okay, so 6. So what happens here? First of all, in the main function, this is a main function, right? Main function. We are going to read two values, A is 5, B is 7. Then it's going to pass through this one. So now at this point, and here, we are going to check mystery 5 and 7, right? So now we will go to this function to see what is mystery 5 and 7. So put the argument 1, 5, and then argument 2, 7, right? So what happens? 5, 7. 5 goes here, 7 goes here. The result is 5 plus 7 equal 12, right? And then 12. 12 is z. So then z is equal 12, right? And then 12 goes to this line. So now 12 divided by 2.0 is going to be to the updated result of z, right? Which is 6. It's going to be printed out when we call function. When we call function main, 6 will be printed out. Okay, so let's see another one. Define main function. So let's say a is equal to 4 and then print let me bring this one, mystery a. So now the next function that I'm going to define, mystery, has just one argument 1, right? And then what happens here, y is equal to a multiplied to a, then return y, and then when I call function may, oops, but this time really I didn't do anything wrong. A is not defined. Why? Oh my god, really? So look at all the mistakes. But that's a kind of amazing thing when you can read this and find a mistake. Or sometimes this is not going to give you the good, hint, but if you go back and read everything, you may find the mistakes you have. Okay, so now 16. So what happens? A is going to pass through this one, and then we are going to calculate mystery 4, right? We come here. Now we have to find, well, argument 1 is equal to 4, right? It goes here. Now y is equal to 4 multiply 4, right? And then 4 multiply 4 is 16. Okay, so let's have another example of multiple return. Okay, so actually function with multiple return. Okay, so let's define the cube volume, and I'm going to, instead of side length, I'm going to write down S. So if S is greater than or equal to 0, let's copy, let's what's that, write down volume equal S what's that, power 3, and then else. What is else? Else means if the side is not greater than 0, right? If S is less than 0. So what happens? V becomes 0, right? And then we are going to return V. So now let's print the cubic volume for 6, for example, 216. And then what about negative 2? So negative side length, positive side length. Okay, so as you see, the result is going to be 0, because if we have positive, it's going to go through the first statement of if, and then if it is negative, it's going to go through the second statement of if and printing out the 0. So now let's say I have defined a function, but I didn't explain what happens else, right? So means only when side length is positive. So this is just for whenever side length is positive, right? So if I print out 6, everything is fine, but when I print out negative 2, I'm going to get error. I receive error since we didn't explain this situation in the function. Okay, so this is one of the examples of what you can do easily get error. Let's see another example. So let's define another mystery function. Now the argument is n. If n divided by 2 has the remainder 0. So what happens? The remainder of n divide by 2 is 0. So what is this? This is the even number, right? Correct? So if the number is even, it says that if the number is even, then return true, else return false. So what's going to be the answer for this one? So let's see. Oops, we didn't. Okay, so I'm going to say now, what is the result of mystery 2? True, because 2 is an even number. Because 2 is an even number, right? So what about 5? False, because 5 is not an even number, right? So what I'm going to do, actually, return well, Okay, let's say when it is even, when it is odd. So this is the way, again, this is the way we define a test when a value is even. Okay, so let me know if you have any question, and this is all I have for today's video. Make sure to review all the questions you have in the PowerPoint. Okay, take care of yourself and let me know if you have any question.